First contact with the fragments. The UES Pathfinder drifted silently through the Carina Nebula, its quantum sensors probing the colorful clouds of gas and dust. Captain Maya Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her dark eyes reflecting the distant stars. Something about this sector had been bothering her for weeks, electromagnetic anomalies that defied explanation. "Captain, we're picking up unusual energy signatures," Lieutenant Sarah O'Connor reported from her science station. "They're moving against the nebula's currents." Chen turned from the window. "Natural phenomena?" "No, ma'am. The patterns suggest intelligence, but—" O'Connor's voice trailed off as she studied her readings. "They're unlike anything in our database." The bridge crew watched as streams of luminescent particles began coalescing around their ship, forming intricate patterns that pulsed with an inner light. The patterns weren't random. They were geometric, mathematical, repeating with precise variation. "They're trying to communicate," Chen realized. She activated the ship's universal translator, hoping it could decode these strange signals. The luminescent streams responded immediately, swirling faster, their patterns growing more complex. The translator's AI worked furiously, analyzing the mathematical sequences until finally, a haunting voice emerged through the bridge speakers. "You are different from the others. You observe. You wait. You do not run." Chen stepped forward. "I am Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth ship Pathfinder. We mean you no harm." "Who? What are you?" The lights dimmed momentarily before responding. "We are the fragments. Once we were whole. Once we were many. Now we are scattered, divided, hunted." The story of the fragments emerged piece by piece over the next few hours. They had been a civilization of energy beings, capable of generating and manipulating infinite amounts of power through their natural quantum processes, but their abilities had frightened the dominant species of the galaxy, particularly the Dominion Alliance, a coalition of militant races who saw the fragments' potential as a threat. Rather than risk the fragments becoming too powerful, the Dominion had attacked their homeworld with weapons designed to disrupt their energy matrices. The assault had literally torn their civilization apart, scattering individual fragments across the galaxy like cosmic dust. "Why haven't other species helped you?" Chen asked, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Fear," came the simple reply. "The Dominion's influence is vast. Those who might help fear reprisal. Those who might shelter us fear our power. So we drift, unable to reunite, unable to rebuild." O'Connor's console suddenly lit up with warnings. "Captain, multiple ships dropping out of FTL. Dominion signatures." 3 warships materialized at the edge of the nebula, their angular forms bristling with weapons. The bridge's comm system crackled with a harsh transmission. "Earth vessel, you are interfering with a quarantine species. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Chen's jaw tightened as she looked at the swirling lights of the fragments. In them, she saw not a threat, but a people who had suffered too long simply for being different. She thought of humanity's own history, how often fear had led to persecution, and how the only remedy had been those willing to stand against injustice. "This is Captain Chen of the UES Pathfinder," she responded, her voice steady. "The fragments are under our protection. Any hostile action against them will be considered an act of war against Earth." The bridge fell silent. Chen knew she was potentially starting an interstellar conflict, but something deeper than duty drove her decision. Humanity had joined the galactic community, promising to be a force for progress and justice. This was their chance to prove it. "You would risk war for beings you just met." The Dominion commander's voice was incredulous. "We would risk war to protect the innocent," Chen corrected. "Humanity has learned that progress comes not from fear, but from understanding. Not from destruction, but from cooperation." The fragments' light grew brighter, their patterns more intricate. "No species has ever defended us," they communicated. "Why would you take such a risk?" Chen smiled slightly. "Because it's right, and because I believe your people and mine have much to learn from each other." As the standoff continued, Chen sent an encrypted quantum transmission to Earth Command, knowing her next actions would shape not only humanity's future, but the fate of a species that had known nothing but persecution for centuries. The fragments swirled around the Pathfinder, their light a testament to hope reborn, while the Dominion warships loomed in the distance, a reminder that sometimes standing up for what's right meant standing alone. The true test was just beginning. The promise of protection. The United Earth Council chamber in Geneva hummed with tension. Holographic displays showed the UES Pathfinder standoff with the Dominion warships, while streams of data scrolled past detailing the fragment's capabilities. Admiral Helena Santos stood before the assembled representatives, her weathered face illuminated by the projections. "The Dominion Alliance has issued an ultimatum," Santos announced, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Either we withdraw our protection of the fragments, or they will consider it an act of war." Councillor Zhang from the Asian Coalition rose first. "These fragments, they can generate infinite energy, and we're risking interstellar war to protect them." "That's precisely why we must protect them." Dr. Marcus Reed, Earth's leading genophysicist, stepped forward. "The fragments aren't weapons. They're a species whose very nature could revolutionize our understanding of energy and matter. The Dominion didn't scatter them because they were dangerous. They did it because they were afraid of progress." The chamber erupted in debate. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 2 decades. They were still establishing trade routes, building alliances, finding their place among the stars. A war with the Dominion could end all of that. The Dominion Alliance controls 30% of known space, African Union Representative Amara Okafor warned. "Their military strength exceeds ours by several orders of magnitude. Are we prepared to face those consequences?" Admiral Santos activated a new hologram, showing the fragments' energy patterns. "Consider this. The fragments have survived centuries of persecution, yet they've never once used their abilities as weapons. They could have. Their energy manipulation could easily be turned to destructive purposes. Instead, they chose to scatter, to hide, to survive without harming others." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. The fragments represented something rare in the galaxy, a species with immense power that chose not to use it for dominance. "There's something else." Captain Chen's voice came through the quantum link from the Pathfinder. "The fragments have shared some of their quantum manipulation theories with us. Dr. Reed's team confirms their understanding of energy fields could revolutionize our shield technology, our power systems, possibly even our FTL drives." The council members exchanged glances. Humanity had been struggling to compete with more advanced species technology. This could change everything, if they survived what was coming. European Union Councillor Viktor Petrov stood slowly. "So we face a choice: abandon an innocent species to continued persecution, or risk everything to protect them and potentially advance human civilization by centuries." "No," Admiral Santos corrected. "We face a test of who we are as a species. Will we let fear of consequences stop us from doing what's right? Will we turn our backs on those who need help just because helping them is difficult?" In orbit above Earth, the defense fleet began mobilizing. Ships from every nation moved into formation, their crews knowing they might soon face the galaxy's most powerful military force. But there was a sense of purpose in their movements, a unity that transcended national boundaries. Back in the Carina Nebula, the fragments continued their intricate dance around the Pathfinder. They had shared more of their story with Chen's crew, how they had once built wonders that defied imagination, how their cities had been networks of pure energy, how they had offered to share their knowledge freely with other species before the Dominion attacked. "We have received more ships' signatures," the fragments communicated. "Your people come to join you." "Yes," Chen replied, watching as the first reinforcements emerged from FTL. "Earth has made its decision. We're not going to abandon you." The fragments' light patterns shifted to something new, a complex mathematical sequence that the translator took several minutes to decode. When it finally did, The message was simple. Then perhaps we are no longer fragments, but becoming whole again. The Dominion warships remained at the nebula's edge, their weapons charged but holding position. Their commanders had expected Earth to back down quickly. Now they faced something they hadn't anticipated. A young species willing to risk everything to defend principles over power. On Earth, final preparations were underway. Scientists worked with the data the fragments had shared, racing to develop new defensive technologies. Military strategists planned for scenarios they'd never imagined. And in the council chamber, humanity's representatives drafted a message to be broadcast to every species in known space. Earth stands with the fragments, it began. We choose to defend those who cannot defend themselves. We choose progress over fear, protection over persecution. And we invite any species who shares these values to stand with us. The message was a challenge to the galaxy's conscience. Would other species continue to let fear of the Dominion dictate their actions? Or would they find the courage to help rewrite a centuries-old injustice? As Admiral Santos left the council chamber, she paused to look at the hologram of the fragments one last time. Their light patterns had changed again, forming shapes that looked almost like the DNA double helix, a reminder that despite their alien nature, they were life seeking to survive, to grow, to become more than what persecution had made them. The next move belonged to the Dominion. But for the first time in centuries, the fragments were no longer alone. Innovation under pressure. Dr. Samira Patel stood in the center of Earth's newly established quantum research facility, surrounded by swirling patterns of light as fragments interfaced with human technology. The vast underground laboratory, built in record time beneath the Himalayan mountains, hummed with potential. The energy conversion is stable, she announced, watching as a fragment merged with an experimental reactor core. We're seeing efficiency rates of over 400% compared to our standard systems. Around her, dozens of scientists from every nation worked alongside the fragments, each group learning from the other. What had started as a moral stand was quickly becoming a technological revolution. The fragments weren't just sharing their knowledge. They were helping humanity understand possibilities they'd never imagined. Your species thinks. Linearly, the fragment currently working with Samira communicated through the translator. You see energy as something to be controlled, contained. We see it as something to be danced with. The fragment demonstrated, its light patterns shifting to match the reactor's frequency. Suddenly, the power output doubled again. The facility's sensors struggled to measure the sudden surge of clean, stable energy. But time was running out. The Dominion fleet had grown to over 30 warships, all holding position at the edge of the solar system. Their message remained the same: abandon the fragments or face annihilation. Admiral Santos walked into the facility, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. Please tell me you have good news, Doctor. Our latest intelligence suggests the Dominion is preparing for a full assault. Samira gestured to a holographic display showing their progress. The fragments have helped us develop something unprecedented. We're calling it the Quantum Integration Shield System, QISS for short. The display showed a network of energy fields, each layer moving in complex patterns. Traditional shields try to block or deflect energy, Samira explained. QISS does something different. It integrates incoming energy into its own matrix, actually becoming stronger under attack. Like turning an enemy's strength against them. Santos nodded, studying the display. Will it work? In theory, yes. In practice, Samira glanced at the fragment she'd been working with. We haven't had time to test it at full scale. The fragments understand the principles perfectly, but adapting their knowledge to our technology. A new alarm sounded throughout the facility. On the main screen, dozens of new signatures appeared. The Dominion fleet was moving, forming attack patterns. Time's up, Santos said grimly. Whatever you've got, we need it now. Across Earth, defense platforms powered up as ships moved into position. The newly installed QISS generators hummed to life, creating a shimmering network of energy fields around the planet. In orbit, Every ship in Earth's fleet had been fitted with prototype QISS units, their crews hoping the untested technology would work as designed. The fragments gathered in the facility's central chamber, their light patterns synchronizing in complex ways. Through the translator, they shared what seemed like a prayer. May your faith in us be justified. May your courage not be in vain. In the Carina Nebula, where it had all started, the UES Pathfinder maintained its vigil. Captain Chen watched as more fragments arrived daily, drawn by the news that humanity had dared to stand against their persecutors. Each brought new knowledge, new perspectives, new possibilities. Your people risk everything for us, a fragment communicated to Chen. Why? Chen thought about humanity's history, about all the times people had stood by while others suffered, about all the times they hadn't. Because we've learned that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. The fragment's light pulsed thoughtfully. Your species speaks of good and evil as absolutes. We see them as frequencies, patterns that can be changed. Maybe that's why we need each other, Chen replied. You help us see new possibilities, and we help you stand firm when those possibilities are threatened. In the Himalayan facility, Samara watched as the fragments began integrating more deeply with Earth's defense systems. Their light patterns merged with the QISS fields, strengthening them in ways the sensors couldn't quite measure, but everyone could feel. We have detected a transmission from the Dominion fleet, one of the fragments announced. They say this is our final chance to surrender. Admiral Santos straightened her uniform. Send our response. Tell them that Earth doesn't abandon its friends. Tell them that we choose to stand against persecution, against fear, against the idea that might makes right. The fragments' light brightened, their patterns becoming more complex, more beautiful. They had spent centuries hiding, running, surviving. Now, finally, they had found a species willing to risk everything to help them thrive. As the Dominion fleet began its advance, humanity prepared for its greatest test. They were outnumbered, outgunned, facing an enemy with centuries more experience in space warfare. But they had something the Dominion didn't understand: the strength that comes from standing up for what's right, and the power of two species working together in perfect harmony. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The battle for sanctuary. The first wave of Dominion ships broke through the outer solar system, their weapons charging. Earth's combined fleet held position, their new QISS shields shimming with an otherworldly light as fragments integrated with their systems. Admiral Santos stood on the bridge of the flagship EDS Defender, watching the enemy approach. All ships, hold formation, she ordered. Let them make the first move. The Dominion didn't disappoint. Their lead ships opened fire, sending lances of plasma energy toward Earth's defenders. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see if the untested QISS technology would work. The plasma bolts struck the shields, and something extraordinary happened. Instead of exploding or being deflected, the energy seemed to flow into the shield matrix itself. The QISS fields glowed brighter, their patterns becoming more complex. Shield strength increasing, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from Tactical. The fragments they're converting the attack energy directly into shield power. On screens across Earth's fleet, the impossible was happening. Every Dominion shot made their defenses stronger. But the enemy had more than energy weapons. Swarms of fighters emerged from the larger ships, carrying conventional warheads. They're trying to overwhelm the QISS with kinetic weapons, Santos realized. All points defense systems, engage. Don't let them through. The space around Earth's fleet erupted in a deadly dance. Human gunners worked in perfect synchronization, with fragment-enhanced targeting systems, creating overlapping fields of fire that caught many fighters. But some got through. The first missiles struck the EDS Defender shields. The QISS field flickered, but held. More importantly, the fragments integrated with the system adapted, learning from each impact. The shields began shifting frequency just before each hit, minimizing damage. They're coordinating, Dr. Patel's voice came through from the Himalayan facility. The fragments are sharing shield data across the entire fleet. Each hit makes every ship's defenses better. But the Dominion commanders weren't fools. They began adjusting their attack patterns, probing for weaknesses. Their larger ships moved into a formation that Earth's tactical officers recognized too late. Gravitic pulse forming, warned Rodriguez. They're trying to create a singularity. The Dominion ships fired simultaneously, their combined beams twisting space itself. For a moment, it seemed like even the enhanced shields wouldn't be enough. Then something remarkable happened. The fragments throughout Earth's fleet began moving in new patterns. Their light synchronized across hundreds of ships, creating a mathematical harmony that the sensors could barely track. As the gravitic pulse struck, the QISS fields didn't just absorb it. They redirected it. Energy signatures are off the scale, Paddle reported, her voice filled with awe. The fragments are using the Dominion's own gravitic weapon to create a defensive sphere around our entire fleet. The battle paused as both sides processed what had just happened. Humanity's shields, enhanced by fragment knowledge and powered by the very weapons meant to destroy them, had become nearly impenetrable. But victory wasn't assured yet. The Dominion fleet still outnumbered them, and their commanders were growing desperate. They began positioning for their final strategy, a concentrated assault on Earth itself. They're going to try to punch through directly to the planet, Santos announced to the fleet. All ships, prepare for close-quarters combat. We hold the line here. What followed was unlike anything in human military history. Earth's ships, guided by the combined intuition of human commanders and fragment insight, moved with impossible precision. The QISS shields, now fully integrated with fragment consciousness, adapted faster than any computer could calculate. When the Dominion ships fired their planet-killer weapons, terrible beams designed to crack a world's crust, the fragments showed their true power. Every shield in Earth's defense network linked together, creating a lattice of pure energy that caught the beams and transformed them into a spectacular display of harmless light. Message from the Dominion flagship, communications reported. They're asking for a ceasefire. Admiral Santos allowed herself a small smile. Put them through. The Dominion commander's face appeared on screen, his reptilian features tight with confusion. How? How is this possible? Because, Santos replied, we didn't try to control the fragment's power. We worked with it. We learned from it. And most importantly, we trusted them as allies, not feared them as weapons. The battle had turned into something more than a military victory. It was proof that cooperation would always be stronger than coercion, that understanding would always triumph over fear. As the Dominion fleet began to withdraw, the fragment's light patterns shifted into something new. A celebration of life, of partnership, of possibilities previously unimagined. They had found not just protectors in humanity, but genuine partners in exploring the universe's potential. Earth had stood alone against the galaxy's strongest military force, but they hadn't truly been alone at all. They had stood with friends, with allies, with a species that had waited centuries to find someone willing to see them as they truly were. The war was over. The age of understanding was about to begin. A new dawn for two species. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, the Sol system had transformed. Fragment-enhanced quantum gates created brilliant streams of light between planets, enabling instant travel. Cities on Mars gleamed with clean energy, powered by fragment-human fusion reactors. But the most remarkable changes were happening in deep space. The fragment homeworld, once shattered by Dominion weapons, was rebuilding. Captain Maya Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood on the observation deck of the new Earth Fragment Joint Station Unity, watching the restoration work below. The planet's surface rippled with waves of pure energy as fragments, no longer scattered, worked together to heal their ancient home. "It's beautiful," she said to the fragment elder beside her, its light patterns now familiar after months of cooperation. "Your people are accomplishing in months what the Dominion thought impossible. Because now we are whole, The fragment responded, its translation carrying tones of joy. Not just reunited with each other, but joined in purpose with humanity. Your species showed us that strength isn't about power, it's about how you use it. Below them, human engineers worked alongside fragment energy matrices, combining physical technology with quantum manipulation in ways neither species had imagined possible. The results were reshaping galactic civilization itself. In the council chambers on Earth, Dr. Samira Patel presented the latest breakthrough to representatives from dozens of species, including former members of the Dominion Alliance. The Fragment Human Quantum Integration Network doesn't just transfer energy or information, she explained. It transfers understanding. It's literally building bridges between different ways of thinking. The evidence was everywhere. Fragment insights were revolutionizing everything from medicine to space travel, while human creativity was helping the fragments find new applications for their abilities. But more importantly, their partnership was changing how other species viewed cooperation itself. "We were wrong," admitted the Arcturian ambassador, their crystalline form reflecting the fragment lights. "We let fear of difference blind us to the possibilities of harmony. Earth showed us another way." The Dominion Alliance had dissolved in the wake of their defeat, replaced by a new galactic cooperative. Its founding principle, encoded in quantum patterns by the fragments and written in human languages, was simple: progress through partnership, strength through understanding. At the Quantum Research Facility in the Himalayas, now expanded into a sprawling science city, a young human scientist worked late into the night with a fragment partner. They were developing something new, a way to help other species achieve the same kind of synthesis that humans and fragments had found. "Your people could have used your power to seek revenge," the scientist said during a break. "After centuries of persecution, no one would have blamed you." The fragment's light shifted to a pattern that the translator had learned meant deep contemplation. Revenge is like a closed energy system. It can only deplete itself. What humans offered us was a chance to create something new. You showed us that the greatest power isn't in destruction, but in building together. In orbit around the fragment homeworld, the UES Pathfinder, now a museum ship, served as a reminder of how it all began. School children, both human and from other species, would visit to learn about the moment when one ship's crew chose to stand against injustice. The fragments had a new name now, chosen to reflect their partnership with humanity, the Unified Quantum Collective. Their cities were no longer hidden underground but spread across the stars, shining beacons of possibility. And where once they had been hunted, they were now sought out as teachers, partners, and friends. Admiral Chen stood at her old spot on the Pathfinder's bridge during a commemoration ceremony, remembering that first contact. A fragment elder, the same one she had first spoken to, joined her. "Did you know?" the fragment asked. "When you made that first choice to defend us, did you know it would change everything?" Chen smiled, watching a group of children outside. Human kids playing with fragment light patterns, their laughter bridging the gap between matter and energy. "No," she admitted. "We just knew it was right. Sometimes that's enough." The fragment's light shifted to a new pattern, one that combined human mathematical symbols with their own quantum frequencies. "Your species calls it faith," it said. "We call it resonance. Perhaps they are the same thing, the ability to see what could be, rather than just what is." As the ceremony concluded, ships from across the galaxy gathered around the fragment homeworld, their crews representing dozens of species who had once been enemies. They came to celebrate not just the partnership between humans and fragments, but a new understanding of strength, one measured not in weapons or territory, but in the courage to stand together. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, illuminated not just by fusion and fire, but by the light of species learning to see each other not as threats to be feared, but as partners in the great dance of existence. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not by conquering or commanding, but by choosing to defend, to protect, to understand. And in that choice, they had helped create something entirely new, a future where different forms of life could come together, where energy and matter could dance in harmony, where the light of understanding could outshine the darkness of fear. The story of the fragments and humanity became legend, taught across the galaxy as a reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures begin not with a declaration of power, but with a simple choice to do what's right.